Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm so happy to welcome Jennifer Trask today. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
I'm so great. Thanks. How are you?
Fabulous. It's a great day here today. It's
Good.
just getting started. It's a good way to start my day.
Amazing. Jennifer, can you just tell us a bit about you, maybe your background, what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my permanent residence is in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. So I'm up on the East Coast. And in my work, I'm a mindset coach and business advisor for coaches and healers. And I've been doing that for 4 years now. I've been an entrepreneur for 8, though. Definitely had my share of failures. Never set out to coach coaches. I didn't even know it actually existed when I started 8 years ago as an entrepreneur. But it's sort of life happened and the universe directed me, and here I am.
That's great. That's great. It's interesting that you said you had your fair share of failures. Can you maybe talk about what your failures were and how they may have helped you sort of get to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I originally started out in the network marketing industry. That was my first business experience. I loved those days. All my failures, the things that didn't work as I thought they would, were all really good in terms of, so when I went into that business, I was young, but I was excited. Like I was well educated. I had some work experience, but you don't know what you don't know. And what I didn't know at the time was that I didn't know a lot.
You thought you knew a lot, but you realized after that you didn't know a lot.
But I really didn't know anything. Yeah. And, cause I have an MBA in international business and a business background. I come from an entrepreneurial family. But theory is one thing, and putting things into practice, like anything, it's kind of a head to a heart sort of process. So my first few years in business were hard. And quite frankly, like they were fun, but it was also difficult because, the money wasn't coming in. I had student debt. And like nobody said, maybe you should get a job or even a part-time job. Like, I don't know if I would have even listened to them, but anyways, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the first couple of years in network marketing for me were really fun, and I learned a ton. Learned a ton of personal development, internet marketing. I went gung-ho on learning social media, personal branding, generating leads, all that jazz. So what I didn't know at the time was that really all of that was preparing me for the next phase. And so I finally decided to leave the industry, and it was a very difficult decision, more so because of my pride, because I felt like leaving was giving up.
Oh.
And what I've realized since as an entrepreneur is actually knowing when to leave something is a skill, because not every business is going to work, no matter how successful you are. And so you need to know when to get out.
So how do you know? Because some people really struggle with sort of figuring things out.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you know. Yeah, first.
How you know. Okay. So I think there's a couple of factors, and everyone's situation is different. But I honestly, Linda, I think if I had really been honest with myself, I feel like if I had been honest with myself a year prior, I would have been able to see what was already there. But my ego and pride and my kind of like youthful, it was my first shot at entrepreneurship. And, my dad was an entrepreneur, my brother was. I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were so supportive, but I think like you have to look at, I wrote this article for the Huffington Post, and it was called The 4 Mirrors of Entrepreneurial Truth. And I talked about, let me see if I can remember, like your family is one of them. And when your family is really worried about you, it's a time to Now, I'm not talking about the family who are the naysayers. I'm talking about the families who support you, but they see that things are not going well and they're worried. That's what I mean.
And what does that look? Yeah, so can we just put a pause there for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
What does that look like compared to somebody who, like, obviously I've worked with a lot of people who have, are surrounded by voices.
Yes.
Around, whether it's internal, external, that are saying to them, oh, it's not going to work. It's not possible. Don't do this.
Yes. So not those people.
Yeah. So how do you distinguish between those people and the ones that truly have your best interest at heart?
I'll give you a concrete example. One day I remember being in a parking lot, and this actually wasn't when I was in network marketing. This was when I was in my next business. And my sister called me, and I was in the parking lot of the mall here. I remember it vividly. And she just said to me, she said, I'm a little worried about you. You don't seem as happy as you usually are. And that was her in.
Uh-huh.
And because she was more concerned, like she wasn't like saying anything about, now, how much money are you making? Like, it was none of this. It was like she was concerned for my well-being. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, people might be like, so are you making money yet? Like, are you going to do something? Like, those aren't the people I'm talking about. Like, and I remember that conversation with my sister because it hit me. And I was like, I can't remember if I even told her the truth. I was like, no, I'm fine. And but like, then after I hung up the phone with her, I was like, I'm not fine. This is not okay. And that's when I knew. So that would be the difference, like a real, and you kind of know, because I also had some other people who were very caring, but they're not risk takers. They're not entrepreneurial minded. Therefore, they were sort of never really on board. You know what I mean? So if they said something to me, I just ignored it.
Yeah. Like if you're buying a house, you're not going to go and ask a 4-year-old child if that's the right house for you.
Well,
it's kind of like the equivalent, right? Don't ask a person who's not in business how to go into business, really.
No. And yeah, so it's not that, but that was one. And I think, and the other, another one is the bank account. But see, these are also, you have just let me say, okay, so there's the bank account, the family, your friends, and I mean the good friends, not friends who kind of know you. I'm talking about the friends who would show up at 3:00 in the morning at your house for you because they know you well, those friends. And then, yourself. Because I think that's the biggest one. Like, the biggest one is, when something needs to change. We all do. And I think at the end of the day, that's the most important mirror we have to look at. And I think it's almost like when you're in a bad relationship and you don't want to say to yourself you're in a bad relationship. So you're like, it's okay. He's nice about this. This is good. This is good. So you're pretending that these things are good enough. And I think that sometimes we do that in our businesses. Like, but this is good enough and this is good enough. And it's a fine line, because there's a fine line between when you need to persevere and know you're just going through a valley and you're going to get to the top of the mountain, right? Versus this is really not where you need to be and you need to make a new decision.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a fine line, but I feel ultimately the thing that everyone needs to go into is that inner reflection, and don't be afraid of what you're going to see.
Yeah. And I can't remember who it was. They once said, I think it may be Ayan Levenzant, who I love, brilliant woman. She said, if you're walking around asking everybody, like, do you think I should do this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Like, you have to, like, there's something wrong with whatever that is, right? Like,
yes,
it's not aligned. So, I mean, is that your experience as well? That the moment you knew was that it didn't feel right, or you had to go out and ask a lot of people for their advice? Like, how did it, I mean, in addition to your sister and like her saying you don't seem happy, or there's something that seems kind of off, you're talking about your bank account that may have reflected the reality. your family, other members of your family, maybe your friends and yourself, like, how do you go from sort of pretending and trying to convince yourself that you're just in the valley and then you're going to reach the mountain versus, that's it, you're at the top of the mountain and there's some kit that you have to let go of?
Yes. I think the answer is an internal one. So, I have two concrete examples. So when my first business in network marketing, I knew I had to leave the industry. Then I moved into consulting, which sort of turned into coaching. And I was consulting when my sister asked me that question. I wasn't even in network marketing anymore. So what I knew was I didn't need to leave the industry. I needed to pivot. I needed something to shift. I wasn't going to drop everything, whereas with network marketing, I just left. And the difference, I just knew the difference. Like we all know. I remember years ago learning from Tony Robbins. He said, the only way to change your life is you have to look at your life and you have to say it for what it is. Don't make it worse than it is.
Yes.
But don't pretend it's better than it is, because you can't go anywhere if you're not at the truth. And I have found that very much to be true. You can't go anywhere if you're not at the truth. It's like trying to fake your way to the top.
Yeah.
And this whole fake it till you make it is an illusion, because the fake it till you make it in terms of is only correct when you're not faking it. Meaning, like, for example, I have a vision of from where I am today to where I want to be. And it's like a big one, but I know, like, when I talk about it, it is not fake. I'm like, that's my path. That's where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. And when I speak in the direction of that, that is truth. That is not fake.
Yeah.
I try to pretend like, sure, I'm doing this or doing this, and I'm embellishing. That's like the fake it till you make it, to try to make other people look good, or you look good in other people's eyes, right? That's the ego.
Yes.
Part. So I feel like the difference was, at least for me, when I knew I had to leave network marketing, like deep in my heart, I knew, I'm like, this isn't it. This is leading me somewhere else. But when I was consulting, I knew, like, I was like, but there's something in here for me. I just need to sort of, like, it's almost like Play-Doh. You need to, like, mold it like clay. And so I was able to, I kind of just said to the universe, like, all right, like, show me the way. Cause I don't know.
No, I love that. And it is. It's about, what I hear from you is that it's really about looking inside and not looking outside necessarily to find the answers, but it's really like, how do I feel about this? And I completely love your sort of your description of having the vision, the long-term vision, and what that looks like for people versus the fake it till you make it. Even the way you describe it comes out differently. It's so much stronger when you have that vision and you know where you're going, and you're not necessarily. I mean, this is something that I've done for myself as well, and I've worked with clients on. It's about, I mean, you can have that vision. You might not necessarily know every single step of how to get there, but you'll always know the next step. So just trust that it'll happen. I love that. It's amazing. So one of the things that some people, you talked about failures at first, and sort of how you use those failures after as learning. But a lot of people, when they fail, I mean, the connotation of failure is so different, we'll say, for different people. But with failure often comes shame and guilt. Mm-hmm. So can you talk about shame and guilt and how you were able to overcome those feelings or use them to your advantage to get to where you are today?
Yeah, we currently live, if you're living in a developed country, we live in a world that on a societal level seems to value wealth and, certain body types and certain amount of fame and the ability to do this and the ability to do that. And it's as human beings, at the end of the day, we just want to be loved and feel worthy at the core of who we are. Therefore, if society is telling us these things, this is what you need to feel that way, it's very easy to get caught up in feeling inadequate, because the reality is that even the people who potentially have the money or the fame or whatever, you know, they're all just human beings. And at the end of the day, that stuff, they get in the shower like we do. Like they get like, do you know what I mean? They're no different, just that you see their lives play out due to media. So I feel like the shame and guilt part comes in when we are trying to live up to other people's expectations or our assumptions of their expectations, that being either people we know or societies, or you feel like you have to, again, this fake it till you make it crap is what I'm telling you, right? Yeah. You feel like you need to present yourself in a certain way. You know, Linda, actually, it's really interesting because yesterday I was talking to someone on Facebook or the other day, and she was saying, I am done with coaches. I've spent this much money and blah, blah, blah. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, she has one of those, she got one of those, God love them, young business coaches with no experience, making promises they can't keep just to get business. And I was like, it kills me because I've been doing this for 4 years. And I remember when I started out, my clients knew I didn't have case studies. They knew what I knew. They knew I would go to work hard for them. And they believed in the vision. They believed me. Right. And so they took a chance.
Yeah.
And as new coaches, that's all you could do, new in any industry.
Yeah.
All you can do is say, here's what I know. Here's how I'm going to show up for you. Are you in?
Yeah.
Right. And people think they have to put on this facade in order to get the business. But the reality is they don't. And even in coaching, like there's a lot of people who can't necessarily invest in more experienced coaches. So that's a hand up for less experienced coaches. Like you're going to get those people and you're going to be able to do a great job with them and give them lots of support and whatever. So I think the shame shows up when we realize that we're trying to be something we're not. And you know what? That's exhausting.
Yeah.
That's exhausting.
Yeah. And I think there's a sort of epidemic of
yes.
something that you're not.
Yes.
You know, obviously that's what I'm trying to dispel or you know, help is to move away from that epidemic and start a new authenticity epidemic, as it were.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And so how do you now today define success or failure or both?
Well, for me, I've realized that, you know, like failure is, I don't really believe in it so much because it's sort of like in life, some things work and some things don't, but it's only a failure if you haven't received the lesson or you didn't get better in that scenario. So for example, if I look at my years in network marketing, you know, I could say it was a failure, or I could be like, that was the best training I ever had to be an entrepreneur, because it was.
Yeah, of course.
So to be honest with you, it wasn't a failure. It was like, it was a stepping stone. Our whole lives are stepping stones to the next thing. The universe is preparing us for things that we don't even know is around the corner. And if you talk to anyone who's lived enough life and who's taken a lot of risks, they'll be able to walk you through their lives and be like, I remember when this was happening, I couldn't understand why. And then a few years later, this happened. And I'm like, oh my God, that was preparing me for this. And, you know, I think it's you have to reframe what it means to you. And the other thing too, for anyone who has an issue, like hates the fact that they failed or they feel like they're failing, start reading autobiographies of successful people. No one gets out of this life without them. And so it's kind of like, you got to accept that you got to eat every day or you're not going to live. And if you aren't going to fail, you're not living either. You're just not living in a different way.
That's brilliant. Yes. So it's kind of like, give yourself a break, man. This is life.
Yeah. Like, get fun. Like, one great thing I learned in network marketing, they always said, go out and get 100 no's. Like, they prepared you for failure, and they got excited about it. Like they said, like, go fail, go get no's, because they're trying to train you to say, hey, this is how it works. Like, and I said to a client of mine the other day, she was trying to process, like, someone said wasn't interested in coaching or whatever. And I said to her, every single business on the planet has more no's than yeses.
Yes.
But the successful businesses know that, and therefore they focus on the yeses, not the no's.
And that's a very interesting point, because I think a lot of people now, they sort of observe, especially with the, with our current generation and Facebook and all the social media that we have access to, we get sort of snippets, and it makes me kind of laugh, because we get snippets of, like, the best of everyone. Nobody's, going on screen with hair all sort of, and, I don't know, picking their nose or something, but it's, there are extreme cases, and that's probably kind of how they do their thing. But anyway, but yeah, most of people on Facebook aren't showing the worst of them and saying, like, this is the worst day, or like, this is the biggest failure, or whatever. They're just saying, oh, my life is great, my relationship is great, my job is great, da, da, da. So what would you say to people when they're, like, looking at all that is great and sort of comparing themselves to that?
Well, they're looking at 5-10% of someone's life. I mean, and the reality is, no one's going to put all their crap on the table, because that's not, like, first of all, there are certain things that you need to do in private. You know what I mean? Like, we all need some soul searching, and that's not, it might be a great share for later once you're through it, or, heck, I'm sure there's some people who just want to lay it all out there, whatever, and that's part of their healing. Yeah. But we're all on this journey, and all you got to do is start talking to your friends, and like I said, like, if you're looking at a celebrity, in your industry, like someone who's very high up in business, they're all just people. And anyone who's made it far will, if you actually really start to talk to them, they'll tell you, like, nobody gets out of this without probably having major meltdowns and, like, serious questioning of their sanity. Like, I have done that many times. And if they're not speaking about it, either it's because you just haven't seen them tell that story, or they're lying.
They have very little to no self-awareness, I would say, because and this is just the example that comes to mind, but even Oprah Winfrey has struggled and continues to struggle.
And she's fat. Oprah's such a good example. Like, Oprah is someone, like, she hasn't had a meltdown on the air, but she'll talk about the struggles she had. This is why, like, in my blogs and when I'm talking to my group and all this stuff, like, I'll tell people, I lay it all on the table. I'm like, it was just a disaster. And even now there are challenges at every level of business. It never ends. You keep coming up against more challenges. So you need to learn how to get that suit of armor. And it's not about not letting people in or not absorbing things, but the reality is you got to get tough, because it's emotional mastery, right? And learning how to make empowering meanings about the things that are happening to you, because the game of business and the game of life is like, you got to show up, man, or it's going to get you.
Yeah. And when you say, totally. I completely agree with the showing up. So how would you say, like, what is the best way, in your opinion, for people to actually show up? What does showing up look like?
Well, showing up looks first like, I think that, well, you got to start with the truth. So showing up starts with, first of all, saying, this is who I am, not apologizing for it. This is what I want, and not feeling bad about what you want.
Yeah.
And this is, as of today, as of right now, this is the best thing that I know of all the knowledge that I have on the way to get there. So I'm going to start on that path and trust, as the path unfolds, that I'm going to be shown the way. So that's where it begins, I think. And then you have to decide. So when I say show up, it's like, this is your life. So are you going to let other people's opinions or stories about you create your reality? Because ultimately, we create a reality based on our beliefs. Our beliefs are just thoughts that we think. So are you going to make, in every choice, we have a decision to make, an empowering meaning about it or a disempowering meaning. And a really easy example, I give this example all the time because I'm like, business is just like relationships. Like, it's the same thing. So if there are two women and they're going out with men, same time, they're all in love, life is wonderful, la, 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 they think they're going to get married, and both women get broken up with on the same day. So then woman A is like blindsided. Oh my God, her best friend is Ben and Jerry's now. She's on the phone with her girlfriends constantly, and she spends the next 6 months like essentially in depression and upset and gaining weight and not feeling good about herself, etc. Now, the other girl has a little bit of a different outlook on the situation. So she says, so she does her mourning, because the reality is, if bad things do happen, you need a time to emotionally process. It's not like a black and white thing, but she does it in a more healthy way, where she decides, we've had an amazing time. I've learned this, but I want to be with someone who wants to be with me. And you know what? I've always wanted to backpack Europe. So she goes for the summer and goes backpacking Europe and meets amazing people and sees amazing things and learns some new languages, and her life is transformed. Yeah. So the same event happened to two different people, but because of the meaning that they gave the event, one girl gave it a very disempowering meaning, that she's not lovable, that her life is not worth living anymore. And the other girl decided, I'm awesome, he's awesome, but I guess together we're not. So life is awesome. Let's move on and go get more awesome.
Yeah. And the way I've heard it is like one person is like hiding or going into hiding, and the other one is literally like going out and showing up for life.
Showing up for life. That's it. You got to show up for life. So the same thing in business, like whether someone says no to you, like for your services or your product, or a relationship fizzles, or you just try to run a race and you don't finish the line, like, it's always your choice. Are you going to be the girl on the couch for 6 months, or are you going to be the girl backpacking Europe? Like, I want to go.
Yeah.
Just go drink wine and watch the sun go down on the Eiffel Tower. Like, come on.
Oh dear.
I've done that. I'm alone across the Eiffel Tower. It's epic.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's amazing. I was on the little boats, the bateau mouche, and just as we arrived, the Eiffel Tower started sparkling. It was extraordinary. I mean, we couldn't have asked for, it wouldn't have worked if we would have asked for it, but it was just amazing. Yeah. Those are the things, those are the small things that make life extraordinary.
Absolutely.
So what about people? So some of the clients I've had, either they've been extraordinarily educated, so like PhDs or whatever, and some people say, oh, but in order for me to be able to do this, I need a master's, a PhD, 5 PhDs, whatever. Like I need.
Yes.
So can you sort of talk about that and what are your thoughts about sort of, and not that I find, education is not necessary, because, contrary to that, I think it's very, very important. But, some people spend their whole entire lives sort of waiting and waiting and waiting. And I need another degree, and I need another learning. I need another lesson. I need another course. And they're like never doing life. They're just learning. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first one is depending on what they're going for. Like, obviously, if you're trying to become a doctor or a professor, the way our systems are set up, you have to have certain education. But for the sake of this question, let's assume you don't need this education for whatever it is you're trying to do. And this is a big one in my industry, because coaches they always think that it's the next thing that's going to help them. And there's a fine line, because the reality is we do always need to be learning. But I think, again, this is an inward question where it's like, am I just taking another course so I have a little bit more time to hide?
Yeah.
Right? Because, I've said to a lot of people, because I'll always be honest with people. And I said to them, I'm like, you don't need to take that course. Either because they knew it, or because I'm like, you already know more than enough to build you a full-time business. You need to put this into action. That's what you need to do. Right? And so I think you have to look at why do you want to do the course? Is it because it's coming from fear, or it's coming from love? So I'll give you an example. I was totally a learning junkie for a long time. And I think sometimes that's part of that entrepreneurial process, because the reality is, Linda, like, you need to know a lot of stuff. Like, there's a lot to learn, but you don't have to learn it all at once. You can learn and build. That's the best way to go about it. You don't wait until you know everything, because you're never going to know everything.
That's like perfection, the disease of perfection.
The disease of perfection, yeah. But the reality is, I think, definitely in entrepreneurship, it's perfection disguising someone's. They're scared. They're scared of putting themselves out there. They're scared of failure. They're scared of success. And so we have to go inward and ask ourselves, what am I afraid of? And it's interesting, if you start to journal some questions like, what am I afraid of? Okay, so what if I start making 6 figures doing blah, 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 blah? What am I afraid of? What's going to happen? And sometimes you realize, like, they're legitimate fears. They're legitimate. Like, a lot of them come down to people are afraid that their current important relationships are going to dissolve, or they won't connect with them anymore. Like, for example, because if you're in entrepreneurship, one of your goals, obviously, like, you have to make money. And for a lot of people, they want to make a lot more money than they've ever made in their lives. And they're afraid that the money is going to change them. They might not be able to verbalize that, but if you ask enough questions to someone, they're afraid of that. Yeah. And so therefore, they're afraid that if the money changes them, now it's going to change all the things that they love, because the people who are in their life won't, who are you anymore? I don't know who you are. Like, things like that. And the reality is that money doesn't change you. Money amplifies who you are. Mm-hmm. If you're a giving person, you're going to have more to give. If you're already, an asshole, like, you're just going to be more of an asshole that flaunts it, like, because you've got more money to do it with. So the reality is that we've we've got to begin to search inside of ourselves. Like, why do you want to take another course? Is it really because you need that skill, or is it because you're hiding? And, recently I took a course on PR, and it's my first course I've taken in a while, because I was like, oh, I'm ready to learn PR. I've done this. This is the next skill I need. So I took the course. I didn't take the course from a space of, if I don't take this, I'm not going to know this. And oh my God, no one's going to hire me. Like, do you know what I mean? It was nothing like that. It was because I wanted to begin to master this area. I knew about it. I've done some of it, but now it's time to take it to the next level. So let's go get the skill. And I really think people know this. That's why you got to go down to the truth. Like, don't make it worse than it is, but look at your truth. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? And if they're coming from fear, there's a shadow there, there's shame there, there's guilt, there's something that needs to be discovered. And then you need to make a conscious choice. Is that where you want to live?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I love that. And it's, again, all about action, right?
Yeah, because, this is the thing, Linda, like, life is short, guys. Like, don't waste time, right? And at the end of the day, we become what we believe. Yes. So you get to choose what you believe about yourself. Do you believe that you're supposed to struggle? Because if you believe you're supposed to struggle, you will.
Yeah.
I used to believe that, and I struggled for a long time because that's what I believed. Yeah. And then you're going to go find other people who believe something different, and you'll find that. And some people who believe you have to work really, really hard, you know what they're doing? They're working really, really hard, right? Yeah. And the people who think you can have play and success, they're having play and success. It seems so simple, but the reality is, the rules of the universe, the game that we're playing in on the field of life, they're very simple rules. So you get to make them up. That's the best part.
This is it.
Right?
Yeah. I always say to people, you made up the story, so it doesn't work for you. Change it. Change your
story. Change your story. Change your story. Change your life. Wayne Dyer used to say that all the time.
Yeah.
Change your life. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's why I always give that example of the two girls being broken up with, because it's a very relatable story where at one event happened to two people, but because of the way they decided to make meanings about it and what it meant to them in their lives, they had two different outcomes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's perspective is everything.
Perspective is everything. Yeah.
Love it. So, if you had sort of recommendations or tips on sort of the one thing or the many things that people should do in order to sort of be successful or to have an amazing life, what would those be?
I think the first thing is that you need to decide what makes you happy, and you need to be okay with it. So oftentimes, I'll give you an example from the coaching industry. So, people, again, this is based on what people think success looks like. So people are like, oh, I should want to be a millionaire, and I should want a New York Times bestseller, and I should want da, 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 da. It's like, why should you want any of that stuff? Some coaches just want to make $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, like a salary to live their life. They want to see their clients every week, and that's all they want. And I think a lot of them feel bad because they don't want more. And I think the number one thing anyone can do in life to be happy is to figure out what makes you happy and make peace with it.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. Right? Because again, if you're not making peace with it, then you're trying to live up to someone else's expectations or your perception of someone else's expectations. And you know what? They don't live your life. You do.
Yeah, totally. And I see so many people who are so stressed about, sort of, well, first of all, they don't even know what makes them happy
Yeah.
But and that's fine. But then it sort of all comes back to your original statement of showing up. Just show up,
Yeah.
keep showing up, keep showing up, keep.
Right. And that's showing up for yourself is decide what you want and be good with it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you had a child and the child was in ballet, say, and they wanted to quit because you know what? And they're really good at it, but they want to quit. Well, as a parent, if you push that child and make them feel bad about quitting just because they're good at it, they're going to feel bad because they want you to be happy. They want you to be proud of them, right? But that's not your job as a parent. Your job as a parent is to help that child grow and explore into who they really are. And if they don't want to do ballet anymore, even if they're good at it, who cares?
Yeah.
Right? And so I think this is even where it begins. So are you going to teach that child that it's okay to follow your heart? Or are you going to make them feel guilty and therefore start this story that living up to other people's expectations is the only way to receive love, which is what I need to be happy? It's where, like, this is how it all begins, right?
Yes.
These types of scenarios. So you really need to look at what do you believe and why do you believe it? And is it true?
Yes.
Is it true? And I think when we really start to look at this stuff, like, I remember asking myself, is it true that I need to like suffer my way to the top? And I was like, no, like that's stupid.
Yeah.
Why do I believe this shit? Like, seriously. And the reality is the way to the top, yeah, you're going to have lots of ups and downs, but it can be fun. It can be an enjoyable experience working. I always say, I believe in a good work ethic versus working hard.
Yes.
Right? I think the working hard is society's, like you shouldn't enjoy, like it's going to be hard. And I'm like, no, have a good work ethic, do shit you love, and, hire out the rest. Like,
well, yeah, totally. This is
when you can.
well, and this is really it, right? Because certainly for me, it was the sort of the shifting point for me, or the tipping point, as Malcolm Gladwell would put it, was, hey, you know what? I don't have to fix what's wrong with me, because really, is there anything really wrong with us as human beings? No. I just need to put more emphasis on what I'm really good at and what I really enjoy doing, and then, hey, get somebody else to do what I don't like. And the odds are, if they're doing it, hopefully they love it, or at least find somebody who loves doing what I don't love doing. And yes. Hey, go forward with that.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I think is really a very good tip for people to just be really happy in who they are. So if you go out into the world and find 10 people who you admire, like, you're not like, I wish I was them. You just admire them. Like, you are like, that person's awesome. And it could be someone down the block. It could be an Oprah. It doesn't matter who it is.
Jennifer Trask.
It could be Jennifer Trask. It could be Linda. Like, it could be whatever. And it doesn't matter. But go find those people, like literally write their names down. And then write down, why do you admire them? They're compassionate, they're giving, they're fun, they're this, they're that. Like, write everything for every single person. And then I want everyone to look at that list. And I want them to realize the reason you admire those people is because you see yourself in them.
Yes.
And the only difference between you and those people is that they have taken those parts of themselves and fully lived them. Whereas right now, you're living a part of it, but not the fullest expression of it. So your only job is to decide in those qualities that you want to be every day and like be them. And it takes courage to do that. It's not like, this is actually probably one of the most difficult things to do in life, I think, is to be courageous enough to be who you want to be. And this is about that greater vision that's pulling you, that even though whatever you're working towards, the physical manifestations in your life tell you that it's not there. This is what people call the fake it till you make. This is the correct way to use it, meaning it is who you are. You know it. It doesn't matter if anybody else doesn't see it. If you know in your heart that's who you are and that's where you're going, that's the road you need to take.
Yeah.
And that's happiness, because progress is all we've got.
Yeah.
By the time you get somewhere, like I remember when I was in Peru and I was sitting on top overlooking Machu Picchu, and it was my first year as a digital nomad. It was a goal I'd been working towards for years. And I had it was a very, very special experience, very spiritual, very awakening. And I was on a high for a very long time that I had created the life that I've wanted for it took me like 5 years. So it was not a long time, but I was so happy to finally be there. And in that moment, Machu Picchu sort of represented to me the reality that indeed we do create our own reality. Like I felt like it was there was nothing more real than where I was saying, this is what I always wanted, and now I have it. And what I realized then is, so that was in, June 2016, and that was in 2014, I think. Yeah, like April-ish, May, something, 2014. And, what I realized, it was very exciting for a while, but every time you hit a new level of success, you eventually get used to it. Your standards are raised. It's like as you make more money you raise your standard of living. So what ends up happening is this thing that you've been working towards for so long is sort of over really quickly. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So what I've learned, when they say the joy is in the journey, it really is. Yeah. It really is. And you know what, Linda, when you truly believe that, shame and guilt go away, because oftentimes we feel shame because we're not somewhere yet.
Yes. We're not.
That's why.
Yeah.
How come she's making 6 figures and I'm not? We've been doing it the same amount of time. How come blah, 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 blah. Like the shame shows up when we create these expectations, usually from a place of not enough knowledge. Right? Like that's what happened to me. Like when I was in network marketing, now I just want to say the network marketing industry is a wonderful industry. But like any industry, there are some people who make a perception about it that is killing the industry. And it's the people who tell, oh, it's so easy to make X amount in such a short period of time. And the reality is, can you do that? Yes. Do most people do it? No.
Yeah.
And like what I learned is in network marketing, it's a real business. So if you're going to become one of those, multimillionaire success stories, you're going to work your ass off for that, right? That good work ethic.
Yeah. Like any other job where you have to show up.
You got to show up, right? You got to show up. And so what I realized is oftentimes, like one thing that was holding me down was like, I remember I had seen these examples of these success stories, and I was just as smart as them. Like I'm well educated. Like I've always been a go-getter, whatever. And I couldn't figure it out. Like, why is this not working for me? But here's what I didn't know. And this is that whole iceberg effect they talk about. You see the 10% awesome. You don't see the 90% of the work.
Yeah.
And what I didn't know at the time was the people who move ahead quickly in network marketing, a lot of them, already have the networks. Like you need the networks of people, and you need a certain network of network marketers, like people who know the system, right? And then you need to be a people person. and if you're not, you need to learn how to be. You need to learn sales. You need to learn how to tell the story. There's so many facets to it that make someone successful in that industry. And when people paint it, like that stuff comes with time. Like you can't rush that stuff. That's a becoming of who you are. You can't make up experiences you've never had. Like this is that part of life. It's like wanting to be married, but you just started dating. Like you got to work up to that. Like, you know what I mean? So I really feel like, whatever it is you want in life, be excited for the journey there. And sometimes you're going to get there faster, and sometimes it's going to take longer, and sometimes you're going to be right on track. But the reality is that you don't know what you don't know, and don't let it hinder you. Like I think people let it hinder them, and that's what creates the shame, because they don't realize, like I had said at the beginning, the reason why I failed for so long is because when I began, I didn't know what I didn't know, and God, it was a lot. Like, but I didn't know. But that's what created the shame, Linda. That's what created shame in my, like, I'm like, I should be here. I should be there. Blah, blah. And now I look back and I'm like, of course you weren't there. You didn't know this. You didn't know that. You didn't know that. Like you didn't have any of these contacts. Nobody in the business community knew you. You had no clout. Like, and then I of course went into hiding, and I was learning for like a year and a half. And then I'm like, why am I not getting any results? Because the only action I'm taking is learning more stuff. Like, I'm not actually
doing. Yeah.
And it was this vicious cycle of self-perpetuating bad storytelling.
Yeah. And now that you look back, you can actually reframe, recontextualize the story and make it work for you, rather than make it a shameful part of your past.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah. So for any network marketers out there, go get them. That industry is awesome. I met the best people. I still do. Like, this is nothing about them. It's just that was part of my path to getting me to where I needed to be. But I just want to make that clear, because I'm not shaming. Like, I have only great things to say about that industry, and I learned so much and still have friends in it. I have clients who are network marketers.
Yeah, and I mean, probably this is true about anything you do, any job, any industry, any business that you create. It's about the journey, and it would be really lovely if we could all be, magicians, and either wiggle our noses or snap our fingers or wave our wand and say, "I've arrived." But I love your statement about you can't make up the experiences that you haven't had. I think that's absolute gold. So make it all about the journey, and love and enjoy and accept and acknowledge, and, keep trying and show up for the journey.
Yeah. And Linda, the last thing I'll say on that is, remember, it's sort of like love, right? So what's the best part about dating and love and that whole thing? It's the journey of falling in love. It's being in love. It's the little things. It's the daily things. Sure, the wedding day is great. I mean, I've never had one yet, but I've been to lots. I'm sure it's an amazing day in your memory, but it doesn't make up a life. It doesn't make up a relationship. That's one day of the whole thing.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with these goals that people are working towards, whether it's a weight loss goal, an income goal, a travel goal. It is one day out of your life. So don't build it up to be something that it really isn't. It really is. And the best part about that day, one thing I learned, what Machu Picchu, that whole experience taught me, was, I think more than anything, I was really proud of who I had become. Like, who I had become to be able to take my business anywhere in the world, support myself, travel, have great experiences, have great clients, and I had become that person that I had envisioned, those people I had admired. I had evoked those things out of me, put them into action, and that's why I ended up where I was.
I love it. And that's such a great example of what you believe you become.
Yes.
Love it. Jennifer, this has been an absolute pleasure. Excellent, excellent. You've had so many wonderful things to share. This has been an excellent conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me, Linda. It's been awesome.
Thanks for your generosity, because you've really shared some extraordinary things. So have a very good day. And
Thank you. You too.
yeah, thanks again. Bye.
Okay, bye.